Hello and welcome to this live webinar of making vocab memorable. I'm so glad you guys are here. If you cannot hear me, or if you can hear me, go ahead and put that in the chat if you can see me as well. That way I can know that everyone's, my technology is set up and we're able to, just thought of something. Okay, we're able to go through with this without issues. Also, if you're joining, whether you're live or not, go ahead and put in the chat, in the comments where you're from, what type of teaching you're doing, so that we can all have a better understanding of who you are. I'm so excited for this session. It's one of my favorite things, vocab. So before we jump into it, let me get the layout just the way I want it. There we go. So yes, making vocab memorable. I'm going to share with you 6 tips today that have been super helpful in my career as a teacher, and most of them I didn't know from the beginning. I hope this is going to be helpful for you. Now, it is actually about 3 hours of content that I'm squishing into 30 minutes because I want to save your time and not go too long. So I'm going to try to go fast. With that in mind, let's post searchable comments. Whether you're live or not, please, if you want to comment on a specific tip that we're talking about, for example, one of the tips is rich, then put that at the beginning of the comment so that if someone is watching the recording later and they want to see, oh, what do other teachers think about this tip, then they can just search for that. Because when you're on a recording, all the chat ends up being out of order. So that just makes things searchable. Also, I understand that this is a global audience. You know, LinkedIn is like that. So some of you guys are super new. Some of you have been doing this longer than me. Everyone's coming into this with a different set of experience. So maybe 3 of these tips you've already mastered. Maybe 5 of them you've already mastered. Maybe none of them, and it's completely new to you. The goal is not to give everyone 6 things that you don't know. The goal is to help fill in those missing gaps, remind you of some things you forgot. And if you really don't know them, then it's genuinely new for you. Take notes and you'll be able to use it later. With that in mind, by the way, I'm going to give you this PowerPoint. I'm giving the PowerPoint to everyone who subscribes to my the Lexical Experts newsletter. I put a link in that in the event. Go ahead and subscribe. I'm sending out the PowerPoint soon, and then you can unsubscribe again if you want. It's just a lot easier for me to just send it to everyone all at the same time in the same way. So that is good enough to get started. I've noticed, especially with myself, but also with teachers around the world, most teachers have 2 or 3 of these tips under their belt. But there's one tip, and that's this last M, that I find very few. I'm thinking less, in my experience, less than 1% actually understand and know how to master. And it's that last M, which we'll talk about near the end. All right, let's jump into the first tip. The first tip for making vocab memorable for students, because they have to remember it, is real life. Things that are memorable are things that I want to say, things that I understand. For example, Chinese food. I care about Chinese food. I lived in China. When I lived in China, I was hungry. I had to go into a restaurant and I had to order food. So I really had an investment. I had a need for learning Chinese food. So when I'm learning language, these are the things that matter to me and they become memorable. Things that are forgettable are things that you want me to say. That's you, the teacher. If you want me to say something, but I don't want to say it, I'm not going to remember it. Things that you understand that I don't understand, like rocket science, right? It's meaningless to me. And no offense to my French teaching English friends, English teacher friends, or whatever, language friends that live in France or love French food. I don't eat it. I have no interest whatsoever in how to name those foods. I'll never have to say that. So a very useful tip I found in my teaching is using life links. Connect what you're teaching to the students. Connect it to their real life. For example, if I'm going to teach the kinds of movies, genres of movies, I'm not going to just jump in and show them all these flashcards and then teach it to them. I'm first going to show them there's a need and an interest in saying that. So I'll ask, what kind of movies do you like? Through the conversation, they'll realize, I don't know how to talk about this, but it's a nice conversation. And then when you show the genres of movies, then they'll learn it better. So connect it to their real life and teach them things that they want to say, they need to say. Now, if you want to share with us your experience, because I don't think I'm the only expert in the room today. There's a lot of us experts teaching. If you can tell us how you make vocab real for your students. For example, you could say, I replace words in textbooks with what my students want to learn. And that's something I do. If you have the ability to do that, if you have the freedom to do that, why not? Why not? Just change the test too, and then you're all set. All right. Yes, greetings from Egypt. Awesome. Welcome, welcome. Tip number 2, the second R, rich in connections. Rich in connections. I'm thinking rich, if you're rich, you have lots of money, right? So rich in connections means you have lots of connections. Let's say you're teaching the word apple. It's very common to just have an icon or a simple clip art flashcard to teach the word apple. Now, that helps them understand the meaning very quickly. It's a simple concept, but that doesn't help them remember the word completely. So when I teach something, I try to make as many connections to it as possible, because the more connections you make in their brains, the better the memory network is, the more likely it is for their brain to find that word again when it's looking for it later. So I'm going to say rotten apple. I'm going to show them rotten apple, golden apple, candy apple, apple computer, and have them say these things to create those connections. There are lots of ways to make connections. You want to have a variety of ways. That's why it's rich in connections, not just a flashcard. Use visual connections like these, textual, so sample sentences, physical connections. For example, having a physical apple using realia, oral connections. So that's through your listening. You can play the sound effect of someone biting an apple, and then the class says apple, and then play another sound effect for a different fruit of a different kind. And then you're connecting it orally. And experiential. You can have them maybe after class for homework, go photograph the items in class that they found and post it in the group, so they have a physical experience with that object. You can also have them take a video like, I'm eating an apple, and put that in the group. So they're connecting it to their experience. That also goes back to the life link thing. So rich in connections. The more connections you make, the better they're going to remember. Go ahead and share with us how you make rich connections with new vocabulary for your students. Checking the comments. Okay, always confirming it with their L1. That confirming something with their L1 is helpful for checking understanding. But in my experience, it's not very effective for building memory, at least fast memory. It does create slow memory because it's creating an extra step in the sequence of remembering. So that could be one of the connections that you add to add a multi-layered connection, rich in connections. All right, now let's talk about the P, the third one, the precise meaning. It's so easy to rush through the vocabulary teaching stage and then just try to get to something better, right? But It's very, very important. The sooner your students get a clear understanding of the meaning of the word, the faster their brains can catalog it. As long as the meaning is dangling in the air, their brain is unable to lodge that memory, that meaning into their brains, because there is no meaning. They can't have memory until they understand it. First, they understand it, and then they'll be able to start remembering it. So make sure that your vocab presentation is very precise. I've made this mistake so many times, especially with adults. We think, hey, they're smarter, they're older, all this, they can figure it out, right? And then we come in with a list of 10 words or something, and we didn't prepare to present the meaning. And all of a sudden they get us caught like, oh, is this word like this? And then you realize, I'm not ready to clearly and precisely show them this word and how to use it. So being very precise right away makes a big difference. For example, the word right. There are, I would say, 6 main definitions of the word right. And let's say you want to teach the word right. Please teach one definition that fits the context. For example, let's say morally right. I'm not going to come in and teach them the word right and say it means this. It's not going to be very memorable. But if in the context we're speaking about morally right, I'll teach them the word right. And here's a good precise picture, a precise flashcard that will show right. It's morally right actions versus morally wrong actions. Teaching precisely. We want to teach what something is, of course. That's something we usually think about. For example, the right thing to do is say sorry. It's right to work hard. I think he was right to turn off the movie. These are morally correct actions. But one thing we forget to do is to teach what right isn't, or what a word isn't, especially comparing it to similar words, or making it different, differentiating it from similar words. So I'm also going to teach what right isn't. Throwing children is not right. Stealing is not the right thing to do. It's not right to lie. So teach what it is and teach what it isn't. On the left here, we have some good examples. On the right, we have some bad examples. Now let's talk about the meaning of right, as in to the right direction. I don't know on your screen if this is to the right or not. This is my right, so it's probably that way for you. 2 flashcards here. The one on the left is precise. It's showing 4 directions, and we're focusing on the direction that goes to the right. The flashcard on the right is not so good. It doesn't show the precise meaning. This could be right. It could be go. It could be direction. It could be arrow. There are so many different meanings that could be there. Not a good flashcard. And also, let's talk about the meaning of legal right. For an example, let's look at sample sentences. You want to have precise sample sentences. So they should be simple but precise. For example, you have the right to say you disagree. You don't have the right to kill people. I hope it's my right to spend my money the way I want. These are relatively simple sentences. Not too complex, but they still show the meaning precisely. Some bad examples, these are too simple. And this is something we often do as teachers. I do it. I'm assuming because I do it, you probably make the same mistake as me, unless you're like super teacher. Then you should be giving this webinar instead of me. Some bad examples would be, it says I do have the right. I don't know, the right to remain silent, or some kind of right. Who has the rights to this house? Rights are important. Now, the thing that's the trap about these sentences is that they do show us how to use the word, and they do give us some sort of memory connection, but they're not precise. And here's a little test you can do. I'm going to use the keys test to check if these sentences are precise enough. I'm going to put the word keys in place of the word right. You can do this with any number of words. You can take any other word and replace the word you're teaching in the sentence and see if the sentence breaks. So you have the keys to say you disagree. You don't have the keys to kill people, or the key, singular, to kill people. It's my key to spend my money the way I want. Okay, those sentences don't make sense. So that tells me that these sentences are precise enough to illustrate the meaning. But with the not so good sentences, it says I do have the keys. That actually is a possible sentence. Who has the keys to this house? That one's obviously okay. Keys are important. Yes, keys are important. So those sentences are not precise enough. We need precise sentences. So how do you make your vocabulary teaching precise? Because remember, the sooner you make the meaning precise and clear, the faster their brains can catalog it in their memory. You can feel free to share that with us. So that's not just my tips, also your tips. But for the sake of time, we're going to move fast. So the next tip is P, powerful connections. We talked about having a variety of connections, rich connections. Now let's talk about having powerful connections. And this is where real memory science kicks in. One of the really powerful ways to make vocab memorable is shock. For example, this word typewriter, I could use a picture like this to demonstrate a typewriter. There's something about the yellow bricks that are just unexplained, out of place, standing out, that make this image memorable. And of course, the word die on the paper. Now, all of a sudden, I have these connections of like, oh, who just used this typewriter? What are they trying to say? Is this a message to me or to someone else? And believe me, you'll know like 3 weeks from now when someone says the word typewriter, this picture is going to come to your mind because it's shocking. Now, you're the teacher. You need to decide, obviously use discretion in using shock. It doesn't have to be over the top and crazy. It could just be shocking colors. It could be something that's surprising, that things that don't usually go together, that makes it really stand out. If the words stand out from the students' everyday lives, then they're going to remember it longer. Another way we can make things super memorable is with a story. Humans are hardwired for stories, and stories are super helpful in many ways, but especially in making vocab memorable. Let me give you an example. So I'm going to tell you a story. When I was young, I used to go onto the bridge and throw flowers over the edge of the bridge, usually 2 at a time. And then I'd run to the other side of the bridge and look over and see which of my 2 flowers was the fastest one, and that one was the winner. I had no control over who was going to win or what was going to win. It just happened. That was fun. What wasn't fun was one day when I was coming home and I had gotten really sad news that my grandma had passed away. And I was holding the last letter she had written to me. I had just picked it up at the post office. On the way home, I'm walking across the same bridge. And I open it up to read it while I'm walking. And the wind pulled the letter out and flew it over the edge of the bridge where I normally threw my flowers. I ran to the edge and I looked over in despair, just staring. There was nothing I could do. The letter landed in the water and it went under the bridge. And then I ran to the other side and I looked over again and there was nothing I could do. It just went away and I was never able to read the last letter my grandma wrote me. I cried for days, but a few weeks later, I realized that every time I think of the letter, I still remember my grandma. So even though I couldn't read what she said, that letter still helped me think of her all the time. Now it doesn't bother me anymore. It's water under the bridge. So now with that story, and it only takes about a minute, I think I went a little over a minute, to tell the story, and then you teach that vocabulary with the story. Bam, it's ingrained in their brains. I even think that you are probably going to use that story as well next time you teach water under the bridge. So use a story. It's super helpful. Another thing you can do is use mnemonics. Mnemonics are any little trick you use to make something more memorable. Let me give you an example of just one example of a mnemonic. You can look it up later. For the word juxtapose. Let's say I want to teach the word juxtapose. I'm going to show something like this. I have two different pictures. I'm going to ask, what's the difference between these photos? Now they're far apart. I'm going to bring them together. Just the pose. So this uses a similar sound to create a link to the word juxtapose. What's the difference? Just the pose. So when I put them together to compare and find a difference, that's juxtapose. That's just one simple idea of how to use a mnemonic. And something to remember with powerful connections, unique. If your connections are unique, like these three pictures, they're very memorable on their own. If they're not unique, then brains become oversaturated and we just don't remember the stuff. If every unit uses the same type of pictures, even if they're shocking, like this car that has vines growing over it in a forgotten forest, if you did that for every unit, very quickly it's going to lose its effect. So keep it unique, keep it fresh, use different methods and recycle and all that kind of stuff. All right, so powerful connections. Shock, story, mnemonic, unique. For the sake of time, I skipped emotion, but you can also use emotion. Go ahead and share with us how you make connections powerful. If you're wondering, is acting in pairs powerful? Yes, it is. You're using TPR. You're creating an experience for the students where they're actually acting on what they just learned. So that is a powerful connection. Next, so we're making good progress here. The next tip that is super important for making vocab memorable is mindful repetition. And I understand why lots of people react negatively to the word repetition. They think, it's drilling. Drilling is dead. Drilling is bad. It's just mindless parroting. Mindless drilling and mindless repetition is pretty bad. Although it does train pronunciation, it doesn't train meaning. So that's why we do mindful repetition or mindful drilling. A bad example would be this: horse, cow, pig, duck, horse, cow, pig, duck, horse, cow, pig, duck, horse, cow, pig, duck. Okay, I just read through that and I literally didn't imagine any of the animals. You don't have to. Excuse me. It was mindless repetition. Now I'm improving my reading skills. Yes, I'm improving my pronunciation if I'm saying it right, but I'm not using my brain to recall the meaning. Here's a better example. In this example, even I have to think very carefully while I say this. Okay. Horse, cow, pig, duck, pig, duck, pig, horse, cow, horse, duck, pig, duck, cow, horse. Okay, you try. Don't just laugh at me. You try. Now, this activity is forcing you to recall the meaning while saying it. And that's not the most important thing. That's an extremely important thing in memory building. You can't just understand it. You have to mindfully recall it as many times as possible to remember it in the long term, in the future. So go ahead and share with us how you make it mindful, how you make vocab repetition mindful. You could say, my flashcards don't have the words on them. Please and thank you. Every time I see a flashcard that has a picture and a word, I get angry. They should not have the answers on them. Okay, so mindful repetition. So far, we've covered 5 really, really, really important tips for making vocab memorable. And if you're like me, you're thinking something like this. Okay, I do teach the vocab about 5 minutes, and they remember it about 3 days. Now, Sam, if I follow all these tips, they'll remember it for what, 3 weeks? I say, yes, now they'll remember it for 3 weeks. About every student's different. But what about 3 months from now? And this is where memory becomes super important. You can teach so well. You can be a perfect teacher, but if they don't remember it 3 months from now, 3 years from now, 30 years from now, then it isn't useful for them at that time. So now let's talk about memory automation. Memory automation. And this is where you as a teacher can upgrade your teaching by offloading a lot of your teaching burden onto a system that can do the hard work for you in the long term. If you're like me, and I'm just guessing you are, I can't keep track of 30 students. Sometimes I get their names mixed up. I don't know which words they struggle with. I try my best. I can remember, oh yeah, this one struggles with that word and this one that word, but they all have 10 words they struggle with. I can't remember all of them. I can't keep track of 300 words I'm teaching them. Which ones am I teaching them now? I can remember lots of them, but for every student, keeping track of 300 words for every student, that's like 9,000 vocab reviews a week. I can't handle that. Our human brains can't handle that. We can do our best. We recycle things in lessons from the previous unit or 2 units ago if you're a good teacher. How often can we actually effectively recycle things from last year, 2 years ago? This is something that we as teachers just can't practically do unless we're paid full-time to be a one-on-one tutor with like the president's son or something like that. But this is something that SRS can, is spaced repetition software. Spaced repetition software is something that made a huge breakthrough in my Chinese learning. I was just forgetting things. I was living in China even and forgetting so many things. And I often felt, just demotivated to learn a new word because I thought, okay, how long is it going to be before I forget this word? I don't get to use it every day. And then I met spaced repetition. So spaced repetition software is a very simple program that's developed by neuroscientists, or it's an algorithm designed by neuroscientists that helps keep track of all the items you need to remember. And then based on your memory, it will show them to you when you need to see them. If you know about Anki, I'm talking about Anki. This is a comment from me. I tell my students to use Anki, but they don't do it. I've struggled for years to get my students, to use things like Anki. And this is students from different countries, different backgrounds. It's just too difficult for them. But I know how useful it is. So I want my students to have the power of spaced repetition, but access it easily. And that's why I created Mini Mango. So I'm going to quickly introduce you to this. It's going to make a huge difference in your teaching. Mini Mango is your 24/7 lexical teaching assistant. You automate vocabulary memorization with Mini Mango, and Mini Mango takes control of that for the long-term memory. You've already done the hard work of these first 5 tips, but all that's going to go to waste if you don't have a system for making it permanent. Now, it's hard to explain how it works. You really have to try it if you haven't used it yet. But I'm going to try to explain it to you in 30 seconds. You create or assign vocabulary items. Create and assign vocabulary items to your students. Say, I want them to memorize these. These are things you just taught them. The student then opens the app and reviews. Boom, boom, boom. They say, I did a good job, bad job, I remember, I don't remember. And then the algorithm takes control. Step 3. The app will smartly schedule when they need to review the next item. Will they review it in a month, 2 years, 5 years? The things they remember go further into the distance. The things they forget show up more often. And then it offloads that entire vocabulary burden from you. You've taught it well, but now how do they remember long term? Something like Mini Mango, I highly recommend, is the solution. And by the way, if you're watching this today, I'm giving away lifetime subscriptions to Mini Mango of any tier. If you go to mini-mango-learn.com, you can use green50 to get a 50% off lifetime subscription. But there are limited spaces, and there are way more people registered for this event than there are spaces available for this discount. So be quick, go test it out, see how it's going to work for your students. And I'm giving you a crazy discount. It actually doesn't make sense, but I'm doing it anyways. So if you can automate the vocabulary for your students, they can remember it not just 3 weeks from now, not just 3 months from now, but even 3 years from now, because it's that powerful and it's working for you 24/7. Okay, those are my 6 tips for vocab, making vocab memorable. And I'm still here. That was 30 minutes. Yes, teacher timing. I love it. I hope that didn't take too long for you. If you're still here, I'm willing to answer questions if you shoot them out real quick. Otherwise, I'll answer the questions in the comments after. Maybe you're watching the recording. Please send me a question. Anyways, I get a notification and I can answer you there. I guess I'm about to say it again, but these are things that took me a while to learn. I hope that at least one of these is something that is new for you, probably the 6th one, but go ahead and tell me which ones are new in the comments so I can know what is valuable for you for next time. All right, I'm looking, and there actually is like a 1-minute delay, so I'm not seeing questions yet, but that's okay. I'll be here to answer them. I'm here on LinkedIn. This video is on LinkedIn, and you can message me anytime for questions. I strongly suggest giving memory automation a try. It made a big difference for my language learning, and when I gave it to my students, they ate it up, and it's making a big difference for them as well. I have students that tell me in class, they'll say, "Teacher, put that in Mini Mango," because they know that that thing is something they want to remember, and they will remember it if it's in Mini Mango. So give it a try, but I'm not going to take more of your time unless you ask a question, and then I'll answer it. Have a great week, guys, and happy teaching. Always be growing. Until next time. Bye-bye.